cross, the mystery of divine love. The cross is a paradox, a mystery that confounds human wisdom. It is both an instrument of death and a fountain of life. It's a place of suffering, yet it radiates healing. It's the darkest moment in history, yet it is the dawn of salvation. The cross is where love stretched to its limits, where mercy is poured out without measure, where justice and compassion meet in their fullness. The cross was never meant to be comfortable. It was meant to challenge us, to shake us, to call us out of complacency. To look upon the cross is to be confronted with the raw reality of sin, but even more, with the overwhelming power of love. It exposes the depth of human brokenness, yet it reveals the even greater depth of divine mercy. It stands as a reminder that sin has a cost, but grace has a greater claim. As we meditate on the cross, we realize that Christ was not only carrying the weight of wood, he was carrying the weight of humanity's rebellion. Every sin, every betrayal, every act of indifference, every wound we have inflicted upon others and upon ourselves was placed upon his shoulders. And yet, he bore it in silence. He did not resist. He did not fight back. He did not curse his accusers. Instead, he prayed, "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do." Luke 23:34. The cross is the school of love. It is where we learn true love is not sentimental but sacrificial. The love of the cross does not ask, "What do I get?" but "What can I give?" It's a love that does not count the cost. It's a love that gives until there is nothing left to give, and then gives even more. It's a love that endures wounds, rejection, and humiliation, yet remains unshaken. At the height of his agony, Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Matthew 27:46. It's a cry of abandonment, the depth of human suffering distilled into one anguished plea. And yet, even in this moment, Jesus does not turn away from the Father. His cry is not one of despair, but of trust. He's quoting Psalm 22, a psalm that begins in agony but ends in victory. His plan and his pain is real, but so is his faith. Even when he cannot feel the Father's presence, he remained faithful. There is something deeply personal about the cross. Christ did not die for an abstract humanity. He died for each of us individually, personally. He saw us more from the cross. He thought of us. He carried our burdens. Every blow he endured was for our healing. Every drop of blood that fell was shed for our redemption. Every moment of suffering was endured so that we might be set free. When Jesus speaks his final words, "It is finished," John 19:30, he does not mean that his life is taken from him, but that his mission is complete. The work of redemption is accomplished. The sacrifice is accepted. The bridge between heaven and earth is restored. The power of sin is broken, not through an act of force, but through an act of love. The cross does not erase suffering from our lives, my dear brothers and sisters, but it transforms it. It teaches us that suffering is not the end of the story, that pain, when united with Christ, is not meaningless, that every wound, every struggle, every cross we carry can become a pathway to grace. The cross does not take away our trials, but it gives them purpose. At the foot of the cross stands Mary, silent and sorrowful, steadfast. She does not try to stop the suffering of her son. She does not run away. she stays. She shares in his pain, not by taking it away, but by being present in it. Mary's suffering does not separate her from Christ. It unites her more deeply to him. She teaches us how to suffer, not with despair, but with faith. Not with resistance, but with surrender. And not with fear, but with love. The arms of Jesus on the cross are stretched wide, not only by the force of the nails, but by the force of his love. It is as if he is embracing the whole world, refusing to let it go. He is nailed in place, yet his love remains free. His body is broken, yet his spirit is unbroken. He is dying, yet he is giving life. The cross is not the end, it's the beginning. The grave will not hold him. The darkness will not overcome him. Death will not have the final word. The cross is a moment of agony, but also the prelude to resurrection. When we stand before the cross, we are not called to remain in sorrow, but to move toward hope. To believe that in every suffering, God is working redemption. To trust that beyond every cross, there is an empty tomb. And so, as we gaze upon the cross, let us not turn away. Let us not look upon it with indifference, but with gratitude. Let us not see it as a sign of defeat, but a sign of triumph. Let us not carry our own crosses with reluctance, but with love, knowing that Christ walks with us. The cross is the meeting point of divine justice and infinite mercy. It stands as a silent witness to the truth that sin must be atoned for. Yet God's response is not condemnation, but self-sacrificing love. At Calvary, God does not demand reparation from us. Instead, he steps into our place. He absorbs the punishment that justice requires, not to destroy us, but to restore us. In the face of our failures, his response is not rejection, but redemption. This is the heart of the cross, love that is willing to pay the highest price. As we contemplate the wounds of Christ, we must ask ourselves, do we recognize our place in this story? The cross is not merely an event of the past, but a reality that touches our lives today. Every sin we commit is another blow to the nails, another weight upon his shoulders. And yet, Christ does not look at us with anger. His eyes, even in suffering, are filled with compassion. He does not accuse, he pleads for our forgiveness. If the cross teaches us anything, it is that there is no sin too great, no heart too lost, no soul too far gone, that it cannot be reclaimed by his mercy. The cross is not only about what Christ did for us, it is also about what he calls us to do. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Luke 9:23. To be a disciple of Jesus is to embrace the way of the cross. It means choosing love when it is difficult, choosing faith when everything seems dark, choosing to forgive when we would rather hold on to resentment. The cross is not just something to be admired, it is something to be lived. True Christianity is not about avoiding suffering, but about transforming it. When we unite our own trials with Christ's sacrifice, our pain becomes redemptive. It becomes an offering of love. At the moment of his death, the earth quakes, the sky darkens, the temple veil is torn into two. Creation itself reacts to the death of its creator. The veil which once separated humanity from the Holy of Holies is now removed. The way to God is open. No longer do we need to stand at a distance. Through the cross, we are brought into the very heart of God. It is an invitation to step beyond our fears, our guilt, our brokenness, and enter into a new life, a life shaped by grace. But the story does not end at the cross. The suffering is real, the death is real, but so is the resurrection. The cross is heavy, but it does not have the final word. Every Good Friday leads to Easter Sunday. Every tomb will one day be emptied, and every wound will one day be healed. When we gaze upon the cross, we are not looking at the symbol of despair, but a promise of victory. It reminds us that even in our darkest nights, hope is never lost. In the shadow of the cross, we already see the light of resurrection. For if we have died with him, we shall also rise with him. 2 Timothy 2:11. This is the hope that sustains us, the truth that carries us forward. Love has conquered, and through the cross we are made new. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the whole world. Amen.